Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Data Dojo. I am Swagita Ashwini, and today I have another amazing women influencer in AI and UX with me. Her name is Aditi Paul. She is an author, a researcher. She also has a Slack community and she helps immigrants like me to get rid of all the blockages, and she has a really good community. On a personal note, I've also known her because she's also a colleague of mine and she works with me for Boomi AI. And all I can say is she's a workhorse and she absolute pleasure to work with. So welcome Aditi. Thank you so much for taking the time out and sharing your insights with us. So over to you if you would like to share some brief information about yourself.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Swagata, for all the wonderful words that you just said. And I'll tell you something. I've not told this to you before. When I got to know you, the only one principle that I followed in forging a relationship with you is following my mom's advice. So when I was a little girl, which was a while back, she told me when I was in school, the one sage advice she gave me is like, you have to be friends with the first girl who comes first in class and just learn everything from her so that you can guarantee your success. And you are the first girl of Bhumi, I can tell you that, where your people don't know it, but she gets shout outs from like the CEO and the CTO and then the director. I'm like, my goodness, who is this lady? I need to get to know her and need to be friends with her and work with her. So just so you know, this is extremely selfish of me to be on your podcast. It helps me be friends with the first girl and learn all the success strategies from her. But it's such a pleasure working with you and being on your podcast, and you're doing so much, and it's an honor to be in the front seat, getting to experience as you grow in your role as the superstar data scientist that you are.
Awesome. I think our moms will get along really well because the same thing even my mom used to say.
Yeah, ultimate success hack.
Even back then was something else, like don't
Yeah.
talk to boys, but only talk to girls and be best friends with
Yeah.
the bench.
The topper.
Yeah. Yeah. And so far in the podcast, I've had a privilege to talk to mostly women, and I am a little bit biased because I really learn a lot from fellow women colleagues and their perspectives. So, yeah.
Awesome.
All right. So, I think, yeah, first thing that I wanted to ask, and I'm very, very curious to know that about your journey because it's kind of a little bit unconventional. You have done a PhD, you have a background in psychology, research. Now you've pivoted from being a professor to in the industry, and then you're getting yourself involved in AI and more of quantitative UX part. So, what made you take that decision and that path, and yeah, how do you find yourself enjoying your current role?
The running script in my life is do everything that your body tells you not to do, and that has honestly been it. I'm not even trying to be facetious, because the biggest part of my being right now, as you see on LinkedIn, is talking about it. How do you come to the US? So much more person who never wanted to come to the US. My sister moved to the US in 2009, and she had a baby boy, and she has been the biggest proponent of the United States. She's like, you have to come here. Like, this is the land where professors actually respond to your emails. And I'm like, wow, like what a sales pitch. But that's what drove me to come to the US. My sister telling me incessantly that you come here. Then my sister told me to get a PhD. I wanted to quit school after class 12. Like, who wants to study? who
Yeah.
wants this who wants this life, right? I wanted to quit, but then against my will I got my PhD. But that became the biggest part of my being. I just fell in love with the scientific process of learning and discovering and getting to the truth in a way that is unbiased. And that has percolated in different areas of my life, and that also inspired my move away from academia, where I moved into academia. Again, did not want to be a professor, but then life happened, and I got the job call of a professor. That was the time when I was applying to all the professor roles, and I moved to New York City. Also did not like New York City, but that became the biggest part of my being. I thought it was too noisy. I really liked Chicago at that time, but this. So whenever I feel myself not wanting to do something, I get very excited. I'm like, this is exactly what I need to be doing, because
Kind
this is
of a
where
rebel.
Yeah, so rebelling against your own self.
Yeah.
And that's what I have consciously tried to practice in my life, to not get so hung up of the idea that I have of myself, who I need to be, that I reject the opportunities that are coming at me. And that honestly has brought me to where I am right now, that is working in collaboration with you, with AI. And as we all know, I did my bachelor's and master's in computer science, again, against my will, did not want to do that. But
Yeah.
then that's where I found the most success as well. But everything kind of married itself together, where I got a PhD in communication studies. I was studying the impact of technology on human relationships. I really wanted to understand how technology shapes us in a way that is irreversible. So if you think about like minor things that we do in our lives, right, like whenever we are bored, we pick up the phone, like where did this behavior even come from?
Mhm.
And how technology shapes communication. So that overarching thesis led me to study online dating, and I got super nerdy about it, and I did 13 years of research on it. Had the most fun, and then I realized, bas ab ho gaya, it's okay, it's done. And it was time for me to move on. And lo and behold, Boomi happened. Not only did I get myself into industry, I got myself into a very tech context of the industry. This is like super super techy.
Yeah.
And again, very very much out of my comfort zone.
Mhm.
And previously, 10 years before, I would be like, but is this what I was meant to do?
Right.
But these life events have happened which have made me realize this is exactly what I need to do. If this opportunity has come to me, and if I'm in this position, I'm going to make the most of it.
Right.
And thank God I got put in the team for AI, which helps me work with people who are just as invested in AI as you. And I feed off of that energy. I'm like, okay, there's a Swagata in the team who really wants to understand what AI is. She's submitted a patent and it got accepted. Like, there's something to learn over here. So why don't I piggyback off of that and put myself into the scientific process, just like I did in my PhD, to take this gnarly area which seems so unclear, but step by step we put these blocks together and the picture becomes clear. I hope that answered your question,
Yeah.
how I made the transition from where I was to where I am today.
Yeah, definitely. I think similarly, like I've seen a lot of people who come to the US and like, you know, living the template life, like let's do a master's, and mostly people do engineering, and that's what I did. But then you come across a role or something different, and you realize, oh, this is what my goal was, or my life was meant
Mm,
to be.
mhm,
So it's very
mhm.
interesting to see how your life trajectory, and you've spent like 13 years on a
Mm,
very interesting topic. So I'm curious to know like the research that you did on the online dating, and I know that it has been posted on like so many platforms like Washington Post. So how did, were you expecting that kind of recognition, or did it happen organically? And didn't that make you feel like maybe there is something in this that I should pursue because I'm getting so much recognition?
Yeah, I paid for all of it. I'm kidding. I didn't. But it happened at a very interesting time in my life, where, because of my perennial habit of saying yes to things that I'm never prepared for, I find myself that move always invites a lot of trouble. Uh, but I embrace that trouble right now because I have enough data points in my life to understand that getting in trouble means you're pushing boundaries, and that's the only way to grow. I hope I tread that ground very carefully. But that's what happened when I got a PhD, or when I decided to get a PhD. So not only was I moving away from computer science to communication studies, which is a completely different ball game. I was also going from a master's to a PhD. So my typical Indian student brain was, oh, bachelor's, I just have to study a little harder to get my master's. That's it. That's right. Like, master's is just bachelor's time twice the effort. And I thought, oh yeah, PhD is also going to be like that. Like, instead of taking 10 courses, I will take 20 courses. I will Indian English. Like, I will mug up everything and then I will regurgitate everything. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'll come first in class. That's exactly what happened in my master's. Please don't ask me anything about computer science because I don't remember anything. But I did get first class first in my master's. Also got a 750 rupees voucher for that, so which I haven't yet encashed, I think. So it's there. But the thing is, I thought I came with such a false perception of what a PhD was. I got a chance and I jumped on it. So it took me a long time to understand what the research process is, only to later on have a complete career on research. And to be honest with you, Swagata, I did not like research at all. I thought it was very painful.
Oh,
First of all, in research, the idea is you need to be an inventor. You need to find out an angle that nobody else has
right.
found.
Yeah. Yeah.
I struggle to have an original thought. I am the comment section of a reel where I just post, oh my gosh, so relatable. I am not living an original. That's my life, right? Like, what is an original thought? And in research, you need to have an original thought. You need to back it up, that is, it's significant. And you need to go through this entire process of rejection to then get your research published.
Right.
And I had never written a single word in my life. I got a master's in a STEM program where most amount of writing you need to do is explain an algorithm. That's it.
Yeah.
But over here now I'm in like the social sciences where people are talking about pedagogy and framework and all these other stuff, and I'm like, what is happening? And this is the time before ChatGPT. And I mean, if only ChatGPT was there, 99% of the trauma that I have from my PhD would not exist, but I didn't. So I had to learn how to do research. And in that learning process, that learning curve was a big one for me.
Right.
And I did not learn it in the time that the program expected me to learn. So in 2014 May, my director of graduate studies asks me to come to his office and says that, listen, the entire faculty has decided to eliminate you from the program. You have 3 months to put your stuff together. You have your assistantship for 3 months, and after that you need to leave. And you and I were both international students.
Right.
So if you're leaving, if you're being fired, then you're not only are being fired from the university, you're being fired from the country.
Right.
And remember that I went against my parents' will to get a PhD in communication studies when I had an illustrious career waiting for me in computer science back home. So during those 3 months, I worked like I had never worked before in my life. And I truly believe, not to sound very filmy, but maybe I'll sound filmy, that I really wanted to get the PhD. I really wanted to do that. There's a quote from The Alchemist, which then became the movie Shah Rukh Khan called Om Shanti Om. You did not expect somebody to quote Om Shanti Om on your podcast on data science, but here we are. So go with it. But you know, when in the book The Alchemist, it says that when you are so determined to do something, the entire universe conspires to get you. And I truly believe that's what happened, because if I tell you what led me to online dating, you're not even going to believe it. Because in those 3 months, I took a statistics course outside of my department. I took a statistics course in sociology. And in that course, I learned Stata, one of the statistical tools. And one of the assignments in the program told me that find an open and like an open access data set and crunch the numbers. So I found a data set published by it was accessible through University of Michigan. It said how couples meet and stay together. So I took that data set and I crunched the numbers using the statistical processes that I was learning in this course. And it became like a film in my head when I'm telling you, because again, I was doing it as an assignment. So during this time, I go and knock on the door of a professor to talk to her about some other research project, and on her door was this call for paper for this journal called Cyber Psychology, Behavior and Social Networking, one of the top journals in cyber psychology. The call for paper was a 2,000 word small paper. So I was like, should I just apply? Like, maybe I should apply. So I packaged that assignment in a statistics course in sociology during summer semester, and I sent it off to cyber psychology, behavior and social network. And I'm like, okay, fine. Like, at least I tried. 3 months in, I get an email saying that your paper has been accepted as is, no revisions, nothing. And I'm
Wow.
like, oh my God, this is the
Very
best thing that could
yeah.
happen to me. This is great. I'm like, I'm in the program to the skin of my teeth.
Yeah.
After I got that email from the editor of that journal,
Yeah.
brace yourself. In the next 2 days, I get an email from Playboy magazine asking me about that study that has been published in cyber psychology, which says that offline dating is better than online dating. I'm
Mm.
like, I'm sorry. First of all, Playboy magazine. I mean, I think I'm getting scammed right now. But
Yeah.
then I respond back, and it was actually Playboy magazine, and that started a tirade of media attention.
Right.
Time magazine is reaching out, iHeartRadio is reaching out, Huffington Post is quoting me, Washington Post is quoting me, Tech Times, Tech Crunch, you name it, I was quoted in 90 media outlets across 11 countries. So
Wow.
needless to say, I still stayed in the program.
Mm.
The same program that told me that I was not good enough then
Yeah.
highlighted me in their website, saying
Wow.
that this is a student of the year, very Alia Bhatt moment. And I stayed in the program, and that was the precipice of online dating. That showed me that pivotal moment showed me how sexy research is, how beautiful research is, that a novel finding that you find in an obscure research area like online dating can literally shake the world,
Exactly.
and can catapult you to levels of success you haven't ever imagined in your wildest dreams. And that was the moment when I realized research is kind of cool. Research is very cool, and if I can do it in online dating, something that I did not ever consciously pick, you can do it in any other field. It doesn't have to be AI, it doesn't have to be cancer research. If you are nerdy about something and you
Yeah.
see the value in it, you're going to find your tribe,
Yeah.
and you're going to excel in that field. But all of it comes from the beauty of the scientific process of finding things and disseminating to the world.
Right. Wow, that is amazing. Like hats off to you. Because
Thank you.
I used to believe that if you want to do something novel, you need to be like really passionate about that subject matter. But looks like that your experience, you're saying that if you're, nerdy and passionate about just doing research, you can pretty much pick the principles and apply it to any domain.
Anywhere, yeah, exactly. There is this book that I highly recommend people read. It's called Big Magic. It's by one of my favorite books by one of my favorite authors, Elizabeth Gilbert. You might know her from Eat, Pray, Love.
Yeah.
That's the book that made her very famous. But more than that book, I really like a story that she shared in Big Magic, where she said that, when you have something so successful, it's like everything after you do that pales, right? And you then question your own competence. So in a way, I'm glad that I had that success, but in a way that also kind of set me up for subsequent failure, which I then had to dig myself out of again,
Right.
where you think that you're a one-hit wonder. You think that, oh yeah, I'm just like a one-trick pony.
Yeah.
And Elizabeth Gilbert also felt that way. So she gave this huge hit called Eat, Pray, Love. And then she was struggling to find the premise of her next book. And she did the one thing that all researchers do. She decided to let go of everything, and she decided to follow her curiosity. So, and she eased into it. So she talks about how she took up gardening, and then as she was gardening, she found this little sap of a plant, and then she traced back where the plant was. So she talks about how she was in like Midwest in the US, and when she traced back the plant, she thought that it's from like the Philippines or some Central Asia, some part. And she's like, well, how did this thing come from there to here? Which
Yeah.
then sparked an interest in her mind that, oh, maybe I can replicate this in a story, in a narrative. So all of this came from her relinquishing control of like, I need to do something.
Right.
Instead, just follow your curiosity, ease into it, enjoy the process,
Right.
and you're gonna find something. But again, this is very poetic to say, but if you're working in an agile environment, and if you tell your CEO that, CEO, let me just like wander around, you can't really do that. So
Yeah.
it's this advice or life lesson, as you say, is very, very contextual. It's not cookie cutter.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that perspective. It's very different from what most people follow. So now that you're doing like a lot of UX research and now that you've shifted gears into AI, how different has that been compared to your previous experience? Like how I know that the principles are more or less the same, but
Mm-hmm.
AI is a very fast-paced industry. Like it like every 2 weeks there is something new that comes up. So
Mm-hmm.
managing research on something that is so fast-paced, are there things that you're learning now, or how is it different overall?
We are not in an offense mode anymore. We are in defense mode, right? That is, something has happened in the outside world and we are playing catch up. We want to make sure that we are lockstep with innovation so that we don't become irrelevant. So when you're working within that context, there is always more pressure than if you are really looking into, like, oh yeah, like we're creating something innovative, something nobody has done before right now. And this is not just a company specific, it is the entire world is playing catch up. Like even Google is playing catch up at that point. So the pressure is high. And during these times of perceived turbulence or perceived dynamicity, the one thing that's going to anchor you are the principles that have held true
Yeah,
across the spectrum. So if I ask you, right, like you are a data scientist, you have seen the world change
right.
before. There's always been something,
Yeah,
right? So before AI came in, there was big data was all the rave in the world,
yeah.
and now it's AI. So how did you brace yourself for this landscape? I'm curious.
Internet came and then big data came, and it's always like we are playing, like you said, the catch up game.
Mm-hmm.
But now with AI, it has been the fastest evolving field, because
Yeah.
even with big data, it wasn't like every 2 weeks there is some XYZ company who's launched a new framework of big data to use. It was still relatively slower than now. So it's
Mm-hmm.
still relatively new for me, because it is overwhelming to see that, oh, now there is something new that has come up. And then by the time we tend to learn it, oh, now this is irrelevant. Now learn something else. So
Mm.
it's very difficult to, like, I'm still learning how to stick to the basic data science principles. At the same time, I don't want to lag behind what the world is doing.
Yeah.
So still like a very fine balance, like, learn, but at the same time don't forget the basic fundamentals, because most of the problems still can be resolved with not using LLMs or the most upcoming and things, but it's still a very difficult balance to do. So I'm still learning it and navigating it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Where there, it's always a fine balance between, like, where you have to stick to the principles because that informs everything. That's a safe way of doing it. But then does safe and disruption go hand in hand? Like, how can we create that fine balance? And there's something to be said about the context in which you're working. Like, what's the appetite of risk? What is it? Risk averse? Is it pro risk? What kind of company culture do you have
Mhm.
where you can recover from the mistakes that you're making? And you will make mistakes. So
Absolutely, yeah.
that there are so many factors that go into the regression model
Yeah.
that then determines the outcome, that this is a company that has successfully implemented
Hmm.
AI. And this is something that I was talking to this individual. She is a social psychologist, and she used to work for the 911 helpline.
Oh,
Um, and she, again, what an amazing career trajectory. I love talking to people like this. So right now she's working in the security and safety team in TikTok.
okay.
And she's the one who told me that, Aditi, if you we talk about AI, but if you pop under the hood, AI is regression. Like, you have all these
Yeah.
data points, and now you're trying to predict the
Yeah.
future,
Yeah.
right? So, what kind of future do you want to predict? And if you tie that into the user needs that you have, that okay, this is where our users, this is the kind of future that they want us to predict for them, rather than doing the other way around, that oh, this is the kind of future that we want to predict. Now there's a disconnect between what you want to do and what the users need. So finding that balance between the three spokes of the triangle versus what is AI's capability, what is your company known for, and what do the users want, and having that triangular approach is a recipe for success.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So like I was gonna ask you like how do you sort of balance the UX research fundamentals versus the AI, but you kind of pretty much answered that. So
Yes.
um, is there any project that you're like really proud of that you applied this perfect triangle balance and it worked out? We want to know any real life example.
It's in the making. I mean, as a matter of fact, like we are, people don't know who are listening to the podcast, but we just got out of a meeting between Swagatam, me, and a designer colleague where we are creating something and we want to launch it and we want to see if it's successful or not. Like, how exciting is that? Like, where you partner up with people who know different parts of AI, because in my mind, AI is like an elephant. So the product team is holding the trunk of an elephant, and the data science team is holding the tail of an elephant, and we are holding the hooves of an elephant. So like if everybody comes together, then we create a collective understanding of what AI is, and then catapult our company to the quadrant of innovation. So
Right.
I'm excited for the project that is to happen with you. So watch out for season 2 of this podcast to understand what the what the questions answer was.
And like for me, like being very engineering mindset, like I think we tend to be very unidimensional, like okay, this is the problem, this is the solution. But when I work with you and people in design, I get to know that, and product also, there is such a different perspective that you put. Like for example, in our project I was like, okay, we are doing this, A goes to B and just solving that equation. But like you mentioned, like peel the layer and think from it, like from zoom out and think from like one step back. So that kind of thinking and perspective is so new and refreshing to me. And so
Yeah.
you're right, like when different sort of hats and different sort of backgrounds come together, it brings out a very good product.
Truly, like this entire AI thing makes so much sense if you think of it like a movie,
Yeah.
where you need a really good director, you need a great producer, you need the camera person, you need cinematography, you need, because if you, what you talked about right now about the engineering side is the camera guy, right? Or the lighting person, where they are just like, ooh, pixels, ooh, light, ooh, shadow.
Yeah.
And that's your job. Of course, you're supposed to do that. But the beauty is, when you have other folks in the team, because to be honest with you, Swagata, I too am very, and how can you not, right? Like that's what you're paid for. That's why you're in the team. You're supposed to be thinking in that way. And I'm supposed to be thinking in the user way.
Yeah.
But we do each other a disservice if you're not cashing in on the strengths of the other person. Because when you invite another perspective, it's not at the cost of your own. Because in these situations, 1 plus 1 is equals to 3, where
Yeah.
you're like, "Oh, if you put these two together." That's why I'm so excited to partner up more closely with the data science, data engineering team, because at the end of the day, we're trying to tell a story that this is our user, this is the solution. And that story cannot just be told by numbers, it cannot just be told by user interviews, it cannot just be told by a product description. It has to be told from a multidimensional way, and the more multidimensional, the more cohesive that story, the better it is.
The last section is actually a rapid fire section. So if you know,
I
you
wonder which show that is. I wonder.
have to be, you have to be quick. And I mean, I don't expect your answers to have fire, but you have to be quick.
Okay.
All right. Coffee or tea while researching?
Coffee.
One tech gadget you can't live without.
Does a phone qualify? I think it's another appendage.
Yeah. Your favorite UX research tool?
My favorite UX research tool. Oh, anything that helps me with analysis. So I've been using our own bot, which is great.
Yeah.
Just put in raw data, and then it helps you understand what the data is trying to say. So I love that.
Okay. Are you an early bird or night owl?
Early bird, 100%.
If you could have dinner with any icon, it could be some researcher or somebody completely out of the AI field or research field, who would that be?
Shah Rukh Khan. I'm kidding. You asked for it. You said it, the answer was
I was
right.
kind of guessing that, yeah.
No, to be honest with you, I think I want to have dinner with 3 people. The first one is, I'm such a huge fan of this person. His name is Adam Grant, and I love, as a researcher, previous academic, I love how he does such a great job in democratizing his knowledge, which is actionable in our lives. And I think, as academics, as researchers, we are like, oh, yeah, we're just going to do research. You have to make an effort to understand. No. If we are producing good research, if we are producing good knowledge, it is on us to translate it in a way that is useful to you. So I think Adam Grant does such a good job. Alan Alda, for that matter, the name of one of the books that I wish everybody reads. And the name of the book, and I'm not even making this up, the name of the book is If I Understood You, Would I Have This Look on My Face? That's the name of the book. And I think he does such an excellent job in saying you need to communicate what you're doing. So that's why I really like this podcast, where yes, you have this expertise in data science, expertise in data engineering, and you're translating it for the common public to access it. So I think that's phenomenal. And the third person I want to have dinner with is the author of this fantastic book, which is right up your alley, Swagata as a data scientist, is Kathy O'Neill's Weapons of Math Destruction. So as a noob who did not know anything about data science and how big data affects you, I thought, oh yeah, data, objectiveness, no bias, and it can do no wrong. And there were damning evidences and case studies that Kathy lined up in that book, which showed how big data, if not used responsibly, you can draw correlations with AI, if not used responsibly, can propagate racial bias, which can affect if you get a mortgage or not, health, like things that I did not know, that false or irresponsible AI can have such far-reaching negative consequences. So it changed the outlook completely, that data doesn't always mean objectiveness. There is bias built into it, and we need to be, as data scientists, researchers, practitioners, evangelists of AI, need to be very, very careful and do our due diligence to make sure that we are building models that do not propagate these biases.
Absolutely. And yeah, like you said, like responsible AI is something that people are actively researching on. So it'll be a book to read. So yeah. Okay. Two last questions. One is that if you had one word to describe you, what would that be?
One word to describe me? Why don't you describe me? I don't know. I'll use the best word to describe me.
I mean, it's your rapid fire. I have a word for you.
Oh my God, really? Why don't we do this? Why don't I use a word for you and then you use a word for me?
I would say inspiration. Oh. One word that comes immediately.
Thank you. I'm gonna say driven. I love how driven you are. Carnegie Mellon grad, working as a lead data scientist in a tech company, especially in an area that is so mathematical and so data driven, which can be construed as a conventionally male domain. To make your own space by your own grit is commendable. So I applaud you as much as you applaud me.
Yeah, one last question. If you had to give your younger self some advice, it's a very philosophical question, but what would that be?
To do what's in front of you without thinking this is not something that you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and that's how you actually paved your career.
Yeah, I spent too much time grieving the fact that, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be an RJ. I wanted to be an RJ. Thank God that did not happen. Cannot stand RJs anymore, because I'm like, can you please shut up so I can listen to this music? So thank God that did not turn out to be.
I saw when I was talking you that you had like an internship.
Doing your research is more like it. but yeah, I wanted to be an RJ. I wanted to be a radio show host, all of those things. And I thought that everything that I'm doing right now, it's not supposed to be what I'm doing. And so much agony was created. So if I could just be more impartial and just do the work that's in front of me with the belief that it's going to lead to the work that I'm meant to do, I would have lived a less chaotic life.
All right, that was the rapid fire. One last thing that is a very personal question. I already asked you once before, but if you could give advice to all the women, and not just women, like everybody who's trying to like juggle and, move up the ladder in their career, how do you balance everything? Because, there are things that you do at work, there are things that you do outside of work, whether it's immigration support or just doing your own research. how do you balance everything and do a fabulous job at everything?
I always try to look at the question in terms of like an equation. So your why is balance important? I want to ask you this question. Why is what do you think is going to happen if you achieve balance?
Well, I think every aspect of my life, whether it's personal or
Hmm.
professional, I want to do good. I don't want to be like mediocre or bad at something. If I'm bad at something or mediocre, I would rather not do that. So that's
Hmm.
why balance is important, so that I can be good and just pick up things where I'm good at, rather than going into things that I'm not good at, wasting my time and others' time.
Yeah. So the end goal is that you want to be good, hence you want to be happy, right? So your thing is like, if you're thinking in terms of variables, this one variable is going to help achieve the next variable.
Yeah,
So balance equals doing prioritizing equals a better life equals happiness.
yeah, yeah.
And I always question that, where if I have been the happiest when sometimes life has felt out of balance. Where right now, when you're saying that, oh yeah, immigration support, LinkedIn, podcast, work, like all of this, like life is out of balance right now, Swagata. But am I happy? Yeah. I really, that's what I always come back to, that if your goal of achieving balance is getting to the end goal of achieving happiness, if you are achieving happiness, then be it comes from balance, be it comes from imbalance, who cares? You're getting to that end goal.
Yeah.
That's going to be my answer, more than saying how do you balance it out. If happiness comes from imbalance it out.
I think you think you want balance, but actually it's the chaos that you enjoy.
I really do, because when you figured it out, you're like, bleh. I mean, what are
Take
you
on
gonna
nothing
do?
more. Let me
Yeah,
explore.
like so we enjoy that, right? Like that's why I've started questioning the premise of balance, because within it is the assumption that, oh, if life is imbalanced, you're unhappy. And to be honest with you, I love, not to invite more chaos in my life,
Yeah.
but balance looks different in my life. I like the pursuit of balance. Like,
Great.
I'm working toward balance, hence I'm there.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you for your time, and thank you so much. I've been telling you so many times, but like having somebody like you to look up to, okay, this does work in the end. All this hard work will
Yeah,
work in the end is
yeah,
really, yeah, powerful.
absolutely.
That's what's keep me going.